Hey friends, Jason here, the host of the Speak with People podcast. Before we hop into this episode of the Lead with People, Not at Them series, I want to ask you a question. Are you ready to speak like a leader? So many of us aren't ready to answer that because we don't think we have the confidence. We're too fearful, or we just aren't given the opportunities to speak in public. And maybe if we do, we don't understand how to put our thoughts together in a clear way, and then all the nerves attack us, the beads of sweat and the ums, and our stomach turns over. It's time to end all of that. Speak with People is introducing a brand new course called Speak Like a Leader. This is for the everyday leader to speak with confidence, clarity, and in a captivating way. You are going to be absolutely ready when your boss says, hey, can you give an update on the project you've been working on in front of the team? You're going to stand up with confidence. You're going to be clear, and you're going to captivate that room. You're going to close more sales. You're going to be able to communicate more clearly. You're going to be able to deepen your relationships because you're going to speak like a leader. This includes 9 different modules, all of the training videos that you can watch on your own, all of the different worksheets, and then additional worksheets. It also includes 2 private coaching sessions with me. Go to speakwithpeople.com/speaklikealeader and get your course today. And now for this episode of the Lead with People, Not at Them series. Welcome to the Speak with People podcast. My name is Jason Raitz. I'm so excited that you are joining us today. We believe at Speak with People that healthy communication is oxygen for your relationships and your leadership. So whether you communicate one-on-one, to a team, from a stage, or from behind a screen, we hope that our time together today on the podcast will inspire you, will challenge you, will encourage you to breathe life into your world with your communication. Hey, before we go into today's incredible episode, I just want to remind you, if you are a leader, you are someone with influence, communication is your currency. And you can use communication in just an incredible amount of ways to influence people. Are you investing in your communication skills? Have you taken your communication skills to that next level so you are truly investing and pouring into that next level of leading and communicating? So if you've never checked out Speak with People's coaching programs, head to speakwithpeople.com/coaching, and we will get you all the information that you need on that. Well, we are in a world that's just inundated with information. Clarity sometimes in our communication is difficult, and it's never been more crucial than it is today. And so on today's episode, we're actually going to explore the art of embracing clarity in our messages, in our messaging, because it just has this incredibly profound impact on our lives and businesses. So today we hope to discover why clarity is the absolute cornerstone of healthy and effective communication, how it can lead to better relationships, increase our influence, and we'll see business success with it. And so I'm so excited because we are diving into just an amazing interview with a leader that I have come to greatly admire. I absolutely love how she networks and connects, how she runs her business, what she does for all the folks that she blesses. And so I've just been excited for this podcast for some time. I won't tell you much more about her, but I would love to welcome Liza Marie to the podcast. Thank you so much for being on today.
Thank you, Jason. I'm so happy to be here.
Hey, before we hop in and talk about this, could you just give us a little bit more of your story? Let our listeners know who you are, what you do, all that kind of stuff.
For sure. Well, so as Jason said, I'm Liza Marie Garcia, and I've lived now in Tampa for about 9 years. I'm the COO of a book publishing group. We start our 8th year this month, and based in downtown Tampa. I'm working from home, and I was looking at my background. Actually, it says a lot about me. First of all, I'm working from home today because I have a fun little red eye situation. So I've got only one contact in. So the good news is it doesn't affect both sides of my brain. So I'm good that way. Hopefully I am to articulate what I want to say today. But as far as who I am, you see my family's calendar on the whatever the left side maybe of your screen. I'm a mom, and I'm a working mom for 18 and a half years now, as my oldest is away in college, and I'm a mom of 2 daughters. So I have one daughter now in the home who's a senior in high school. So next year, this time, it's most likely she'll be out to university out of state as well. So
Wow.
as we know, you can always count on change in this world. But I originally relocated from Seattle, Washington, and I was originally a tech CEO for 18 years with offices in Oregon and Washington, back in the good old days. Just kidding. It's always the good old days. But I've had a varied career and just love what we are doing now in book publishing.
Wow. That's incredible. What an incredible range of experience. And I feel like we could do like 6 or 7 different topics for today, but we'll keep it to one so we're clear. So we're able to do that.
Okay.
And I'll just kind of say this: what I'm excited just because our relationship's building because uh,
Mhm.
all of the different publishers that I've met with, I'm very excited to at some point to be signing with you guys
Mhm.
and now publishing publish our first book, Speak with People Not at Them. So this is why I'm also excited. So can't wait for that.
We cannot also. We can't wait to share what your message in our book formats.
I love it. Well, let's hop into the conversation. So as we think about
Mhm.
clarity, as we think about, embracing clarity for our messages, is there a moment in your leadership journey, your own personal journey? Did you have an experience that kind of led you to get to this place where you have some passion about the importance of clear messaging and communication?
Definitely. And first and foremost, that is always in front of us as a book publisher. So we
Mm,
can kind of start with the today part of it, right? We're not doing justice to the books that we produce if we don't establish what the focus is of the reader, which we call in marketing slash buyer
mm,
of the book, and pinpoint that niche of who are we writing this book for? Who are we going to be marketing this book for? And how is all of the efforts that we do, and there's quite a bit of effort on the editorial side and on the
right.
promotion side to book publishing. If we lose any track of that niche and focus and clarity of message, clarity of purpose, if we lose that, I believe that's the reason that most of us that are avid readers have a stack of books we've never finished because
Mm,
that book lost that focus. So I'm living and breathing that pretty much all of the time being in book publishing. But I'll tell you, in my younger days, and I was actually looking at my the first book that I say kind of got me into publishing. It was published when I wasn't in publishing by a New York publisher, and I was just looking at the forward, and I was remembering I was a 20, probably, well, no, when I wrote about the times in my late 20s. Um, and I remember I was called the Energizer Bunny. I was told by mentors to slow down my speech. I was told to hone in on my emotions. Really great lessons that we all need. But I clearly was told in many ways that both my body communication and my verbal communication was off the charts in effectiveness and needed to be, I don't know if this is the best word, but needed to be, worked on and
mm.
contained, so to speak.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, it's so great though that you had mentors and people who took the time, to point because we've all been there. I mean, every single one of us.
Yeah.
So it was great that they were able to kind of speak some life into it. I love that what you said though about the clarity because yeah, I was just thinking about the books that I haven't made it through, and then it dawned on me, oh, okay, that could be why I stopped here.
It's 100% why
Yeah.
and it's rabbit. You're reading and you're so excited about the book. That's why you bought it, and you're maybe getting to chapter 3, and it's all good. You get to chapter 4. At least this is my experience, what we believe, and they take me down a rabbit hole, and maybe I'll hang on for a little bit because I'm like, I really didn't think that that's what I was going to be delving into. But then there's another rabbit hole, and then all of a sudden, the reason I bought the book is not the book I'm reading. And so then I put it down and
Mm,
maybe I'll start it again. And I never started again. I mean, I don't hate to say it, over the years, I don't know that I've ever said, oh, let me give it another try. I move on to another book I'm interested in. And
yeah.
hopefully it keeps my interest.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
And you could tell like I'm a little bit of a book person, so I can
Yes, you are.
I
I
can see.
admire those books behind you.
Well, I love it. I love it. I'll just here's my rabbit hole. My interesting thing that kind of drives some people crazy about my library is I love hardcover books, but I take all the covers off all of them when I put them on my shelf. So
Well, and you're exactly the reason that for our hardcover books at Now Publishing, they don't have jackets. We don't do the dust jackets because I like,
ah,
I like it to be on the
yeah,
hard. Yep. So
that's
you
sharp.
said you ordered a few, you'll see that. So that's why I do
Yes.
it.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so clarity. I mean, obviously, clarity and communication
Yeah.
is so essential, but as you think about it, and we've kind of hit it a little bit, but let's hone in a little bit more. Why
Yeah.
why is it so essential, and what can it do for our lives, personally, and even in our everyday business, whatever we're doing, to make sure that we embrace clarity at just a deep level? What can it do for us?
Yes, no, for sure. So we talked about, having the niche, which in verbal communication, I mean, know who you're talking to,
Hmm.
and talk to what you're talking to. I mean, you can't, humans are so multifaceted, right? So if I'm talking to a board member, for instance, I might know that that person is a CPA and has this financial brain, but what am I speaking to gain understanding of my message in him, right? And it might be that philanthropic part. So know that
Mm,
niche. We talked about that. But another thing that I find myself doing that I think is important for your clarity of message is already understand and have that in front of you. What is that expected outcome? So
mm,
if you know what the expected outcome is of the communication, of the discussion, of even your presentation, and then for us, what do we want the reader to gain? If you already know that, it helps you clarify and pare down your communication.
yes.
And so again, just like we talked about going into a rabbit hole when you're reading, it's the same thing when you're trying to communicate with someone. If I want someone, and I've never done this before, but I know some VCs, I've never pitched for money in that in any company, but they work that when they're helping startups, pitch for the, $10 million, seed money, their message, they know the expected outcome already. The expected outcome is someone's going to say yes that has the funds, right?
Yep.
So it helps them clarify their message so much. So there's, another tip
Oh,
there.
I love that. Okay, I
Do you want?
didn't I didn't put this question on the doc, so I'm sorry for throwing you for a loop
Okay.
here, but was just thinking about parent when it comes to parenting, and you've got one in college and one almost heading to college. Is there anything you did as a parent with when your kids were younger to try to help them understand the importance of clarity? I mean, I've got 5 kids myself. I mean, I'm just thinking about some of the parents that are listening. What an important skill it would be for teenagers, college kids, to be able to have this message that you're talking about. I'm wondering if there's anything you did, as a parent to kind of drill that home into your kids.
Yes, for sure, right? And again, you've got five. I can't even believe it. The five factor versus the two factor is, more, obviously numerically more than double. I say it's probably times 10. But, I think I remember, as we all probably do when they're younger, how you'd give them like 10 choices and then you learn how to bad decision that was. So you'd give them like two choices, right? So we work to make their life simple because we need our life to be simple. So I'm sure there was that modeling in there, and more so the modeling that I'm sure that I did, because for all of my daughter's life, actually, I've been self-employed. I've been an employer for 24 years now,
Mm,
between the tech company and this company. So, and as we know, as parents, it's not what I say, it's how I live, and it's what they're seeing, and they see, whether it's I'm being wise or I'm being foolish in my human experiences and dealings and communication. But
mm-hmm.
I'll tell you, I was in the tech field for 10 years before I had kids. And I used to say this. I used to say, I'm getting parenting skills by parenting my employees. And, there's actually kind of a lot to that. I
Mm,
didn't realize it at the time, but there's a lot to that in terms of, you know, you, I managed my parenting very much to how I managed my company teams. So, I think they got some of that. And then
yep.
now, especially with my teenager at home, her list of what decision, because she's trying to get into this college and that college and this
Yep.
summer program. Even last night, she said, "Mom, I think I want to go into this program next summer that's going to help me." And I said, "Why don't you just enjoy two months before you go into college in
Mm,
August?" So here I was, just kind of help her get clarity of life, maybe you'd
yep.
call it.
Yep.
It's a hard right now for kids and for adults. There's a lot going on in this world. We got lots
Absolutely.
of shiny balls everywhere. So clarity is important.
Absolutely. And you think about it, even what you're talking about with parenting, some of I mean, your employees, the people that you work with. I mean, it's just incredible that we have 4 different generations of people in the workforce. I mean, you think about the gap from a boomer to a Gen Z, the
Yeah.
communication is,
Huge.
so that
Yeah.
clarity, being able to embrace that message. Have you ever experienced a time in your career where, because of the lack of clarity, I mean, either you did something or a project that you were on, or just some situation uh, where there wasn't that clear messaging, you know, things did not go the way you'd hoped, and you had to recover and recoup whatever
Oh,
the
for
negative
sure.
side of it.
Yeah. I mean, I can't say yes enough because, right, one of the top factors for failure between a company and a client is based on communication, no
Mm,
question. And so when you start seeing things go south, or you start sensing something with your with your client, you can bet it's based on communication, lack thereof, wrong messaging, one of those factors. And we see it all the time, even in our best efforts. We would have, we might have a situation come up in our team where we say, well, we know at the very first meeting, we let the client know, well, maybe it went right by them, and maybe we didn't reiterate it. And we have to learn, we have to pivot, we have to put some other factors in there, and we never cover it all. We
yep.
never have complete right communication because each of our clients are different, and each of them hear things different and experience things different. And like you said, 4 generations. And I had to go into my head, we could even put gen or alpha generation now, because I've
Right.
got proofers there. So there's 5. And
Right.
so 100%. And if someone said, so 8 years you've been book publishing, what is your, biggest regret? And I'm not a person that necessarily lives that way, but I would say that our communication failures along the way with different clients, again, it wasn't our heart to have that failure, but it happened nonetheless. And gosh, you're making me think I should hire a chief communication officer. Is there such a thing? Jason, please work with me us on that. You can
I
mentor
love it.
our person.
No, it is though, and I think we're what I'm seeing, and I have a couple of thoughts on this. I go quickly with it, but everyone's attention span has shrunk according to the data and research. We're so inundated with, text messages, emails, Facebook, TikTok, all that kind of stuff, that it seems like for a good contingent of people, their responsiveness factor has lowered. I talk to younger generation people, they don't want to get on the phone and talk to people. They just rather do
Right.
things over the text, and the responsiveness is lower. And as I've done some trainings for different companies and banks, people will tell me all the time, we got to be on our people to respond. One of the things I have enjoyed about your leadership from afar is your responsiveness is like off the charts. And it's
Thanks.
rare nowadays because people don't communicate that clearly and responsively. Any thoughts that you have when it comes to the responsiveness and how, leaders can improve that to make sure they're, clearly getting back with people?
Well, thank you first, because I was just actually, I didn't get back to a client of mine that emailed me yesterday and texted me last night until this morning. And I was out all day yesterday, but we're having some issues. It's a Spanish book. We're having a little bit of issues because it's kind of new for us to do books in Spanish. And I was like, oh, what is going on with it? So of course I addressed it this morning, and I was feeling, oh, I should have gotten back there. But no, you 100% nailed it. It is hard to navigate those waters for sure. And actually, when we have our very first meeting with our client, brand new, they paid the down payment and we're going forward, the very first message is, what is your preferred communication style,
Mm,
and what are the hours of responsiveness? And so then I let the client know that, first of all, I don't expect anyone on our team to answer texts or emails or such after 5,
mm.
on a Monday through Friday. And I definitely please don't expect responses from us on the weekends. I think I told you, Sunday is my Sabbath, my God and family day. So I really, for the most part, never look at work. So that's the way I've learned how to navigate it, is to understand from the client's perspective, and then to let them know our perspective.
I love that.
But I remember the days in a conference room when I was in tech with my tech team, when I got angry. This will tell you how long ago it was, when across the table, 2 of them were texting each other. And I just thought that was horrible. What? We're right in person, all that. Well, we do that all the time.
Right.
I
Right.
FaceTime my daughters in their room, where I thought I'll never do that. And that was actually one of the things I was going to say about, clarity of message is that the tools are evolving, the world is evolving, the generations are evolving. So you need to evolve your communication
Wow.
style and how you come to clarify it. There's just no way you can stand on what you think is the way. And there
Yep.
are people that will navigate this world and say, well, this is the way I handle it. I'm sorry, but you it's an evolving, and it's definitely an invite change kind of world.
Yep. When it comes to,
Hopefully.
clearly communicating, your message. So, say you figured out, okay, hey, this is what I'm about. I need to communicate this to the world. A lot of leaders, a lot of folks struggle with some of that, crystal clear communication. How do you go about, how would you help, a leader say, okay, hey, here's some of the tips, the tools, the things to remember so you can communicate your message clearly?
Right. Well, first of all, I wouldn't necessarily be the person saying that, but the advice I would give would be this: hire an expert that can
Mm,
help you. So with us, it's hire an excellent editor that can help you. You are not an editor. You don't have an editorial background, maybe. You are not even a writer. You can write and you have a purposeful message, and maybe you're better than average, but you're not a person that has been studying and writing and perfecting their craft for 30 some years. So hire that expert. If you want to give a speech, hire a speech expert. I mean, we know when you read biographies of successful people, they have team members that have skills they don't have. They go to mentors, they go to advisors, they go to people that can help them, right? Help them in the ways that they can't help
mm,
themselves. And it's difficult sometimes because we do, meet with many potential clients. Some of them have self-published, from everything from that to ones that have been published by the big four. And there's so much out on the internet. And sometimes I get a little fatigued. I'll just, to be honest, I get a little bit fatigued when I'm working with a potential client that will give me 4 or 5 reasons that I'm wrong that they found on the internet. And finally, I'll just say, okay, I'm not saying my way is the best way. I'm not
right.
saying it's the only way. I'm just saying, based on my experience, this is my advice. So I look to experts, and making sure they're true experts, but get help. Get help, and the expert will help you clarify your message and help you be the best that you can be with their help.
Oh, that's great. I think of the all of us now, our doctors as we go to search WebMD for what our symptoms are, and then we kind of
Yes.
argue with our
Right.
actual doctor. It's kind of the same.
Right. Yes. 100%.
Well, I wouldn't be able to be okay with myself if I didn't ask you some. I know we've talked a little bit about the publishing world, but since I've got like a book publisher here, and I know that I've got leaders and potential authors and all that kind of stuff listening, what are some steps authors can take as they're trying to figure out, okay, I want to write a book on this, or I want to develop a speech that will become a book, but there's 5, 6, 7, 8 different topics in there. Any advice you could give, them to be able to go, hey, we've got to really hone this message down so you get it, to exactly where it needs to be.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, just a couple of nights ago, I was talking to this gentleman that looks like he's going to come on board, and he's got huge following, huge network that he's been working on for about 3 years, and just a ton of blog posts. And he says, like, I have all this, so he has all this content. So you think it'd be easy? Well, so here's where he has to start. He's got to start with the outline. Got to start, if
Mm,
you're considering a book, you've got to start with the outline, and then we do a slash toc. It's really your table of contents is what it will
mm,
turn into. But the importance of the outline is what we started with in this conversation. It is, does every single part of the outline feed to your niche and feed to your message? If it doesn't, it might be a great story, and it might be a great joke you want to add, or it might be a great client experience that you want to throw in there, but does it feed the clarity of message? So a strong outline is about 10 chapters where you put the sub bullets in of topics that again feed to the chapter. And then the second part is the download of content. And if you want to help your publisher that's looking for your manuscript when you have a seat at the table with them, keep your chapters separate.
Hmm.
And you don't have to make them one, two, three, four, five. Who cares at this point? Just name them one, two, three, four, five, just for a title. Again, the expert, right? So our editing team or who you're working with will order them in the right way to make an impactful book, and then on the whole book publishing process. But that's where to start. And then you keep writing to the outline. That's a very important key.
Wow. Wow. That's really good to know. And some great advice on this end as I'm trying to get, material done on my end as we're doing that. Uh, Sometimes, I talk to leaders and even myself, I'm on social media and I have this love hate with social media. It's like, I love it in one sense because you've got this opportunity to share your message. And then I hate it in one sense. You get on LinkedIn and it's like everybody is clamoring to be heard. This is how can we get to a place where, we're, our message will stand out, our thoughts are so clearly put together that they cut kind of across the noise of everybody else. And maybe I'm the only one. Maybe I'm the only one who sometimes opens up LinkedIn and I'm like, oh my goodness, there's just so much going on all the time. Would love any advice about being able to have our message stand above and cut through all that noise.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. And I was telling someone, every day, right? Probably two or three, maybe more. I get the messages. And typically, I am on LinkedIn. And typically, it's the same thing. Typically, it's an Indian outsourced wanting to redo my web, wanting to offer SEO,
Yep.
right? I mean, almost I can just tell you the categories and probably predict it. But more than that, and I love LinkedIn. I think we've talked about this. I
Yes,
do love LinkedIn,
absolutely.
and I do have that love hate where it's like, oh, the last thing I want to do is this, but I need to because I want to, do some posting. But what I think is, first of all, you can't be selling all the time, and that,
Mm,
that's a part of our business. Every business is selling, but you're not selling every conversation that you have in your professional career with someone. And you're not a car salesman, so you're not selling all the time. Is the first thing I'd say. So pull back if you're doing that a bit. But I also think that, again, it's about that clarity in what is it that you can share that is unique about you.
mm,
So I will look at a post and I scan it and I'm looking for that one factor. Maybe for a realtor saying to me in their post, I specialize in relocations. Okay, lead with that. We're all unique. We all have
yeah.
unique fingerprints, like Damien's book, a book we just published. We talk about snowflakes. And when we're pulling out the content for books we publish, it's about what's unique about them. I just talked with yesterday a gal going through breast cancer through the pandemic. We are releasing a book from an author this in October from a woman that went through breast cancer
Mm,
through the pandemic. But they are 100% different because they are 100% different. So
wow.
your story might be the same. You might be a wellness coach and there's a gazillion of them. You might be a book publisher and there's a gazillion of them. But what's unique about you? And that's what you should be posting and focusing on and
What's
continuing
unique about
to keep in that lane is my advice.
Wow. That's so good. It's so profound because especially if people if they've done some self-awareness work, they've gotten to a place where they're like, okay, that's such a good question. What's unique about me? I'm going to stay in that lane.
Yes.
Is
Yes.
there anything, I mean, our conversation has just flown by. Is there anything on your heart that, you'd love to share to our listeners that, kind of caps up this conversation? Anything, when it comes to embracing clarity or message, or maybe things that have kind of popped in your head since we've begun talking?
For certain. Thank you for asking that. I've got a lot on my heart all the time. But one thing regarding book publishing is we have. I feel like, or I know for certain that a book, if you don't have one, it is your legacy. And again, depending on what generation you're in, you might not have 20 or 30 years of social media that your family can look at in the future. So if you don't have that, I encourage you to write your legacy. It's called a memoir, right?
Mm.
And it can be small or large. I have a client right now that we're actually when I was talking about the Spanish book, he is not publishing the book. He is giving the books to his family for Christmas. And it's his whole
Oh,
life story and it's an incredible story. We also have a book, an anthology called like to be remembered, where you would just write one chapter and be part of that. And we're just starting to get chapter contributors. So
Mm,
I'd love to just extend that to your members and people watching that show, to reach out. And there's never pressure or stress in publishing. I always say, that's one thing. And then the other part of it is, when you asked me what topic we should talk about, I went to God, and
mm,
I pray and petition Him to lead my life in every way, and He did. And what I got and what kind of started this conversation was in Job 37. I had to go find it again this morning. There's a line in there that says, "Can people even speak when they are confused?" And that gave me that
mm.
idea that we know you've got to settle your soul and settle your spirit, and some of that, like you said, is having the self-awareness. And I'm not perfect, and I'm not there, and I'm always working through everything I say, trust me, every day to get better. But that helps you. And so in
Wow.
this world of chaos, if you're being all over the place, because the world is trying to shift you all over the place, you've got to start there in some way. So my message is, I hope you look to God for that.
That is so powerful. I mean, that is profound. And thank you for sharing that from your heart and just wrapping up this conversation on that. That is powerful. And it's just so exciting to cheer you on from, afar. I mean, you just sat, just to brag on you for a second, you were just asked to be a part of a panel with the mayor of Tampa, right? Like, just exciting
Yeah.
to see the doors that are opening for you and how you just continue to network and connect with people. It's just incredible.
Thank you. To him be the glory. And I
That's right.
just so appreciate knowing you and the work you do, Jason. You're a rock star. Let's get working on those books, I'm telling you.
Yeah. Well, hey, before I let you leave, let's do a couple final rapid fire questions, and just so our
Okay.
listeners can kind of keep getting to know you. And so we'll do them rapid fire. So we talk about speaking a lot on this podcast. Do you have a favorite speaker? Just somebody that you're like, oh, I'm always just so, entranced when they speak. Love to listen to them.
I love Pastor John Mark Comer.
Mm,
Out of Portland. Now he
yep.
moved to LA. I've read two of his books, The Ruthless Elimination from Hurry. And you know what? You're going to find he's a very calm,
Yeah.
centered speaker. Maybe that's what
Yeah.
I like about him.
I love that one.
Yep.
Is there a podcast, either development or guilty pleasure, that you just love? I mean, it just fills you up. You find you're listening to it more and more.
Yes, the podcast I love that's not just filling me up, but I'm learning so much, is called The Messiah School.
Hmm.
And it's on Spotify, The Messiah School. And actually, I'm getting ready to send out the link to a bunch on my email list. I believe in it so much. And the podcaster is Sheldon Duncan,
Hmm.
SheldonDuncan. And actually, someone I need to introduce you to, Jason. But the Messiah School.
That'd be awesome. And then throwing you for a loop on this rapid fire question, but you've lived in different parts of the country. What is what is the thing you love most about Tampa? You've lived here now. Like, what is the thing where you're like, oh, I just love this about it?
So easy, because it was what got me here from the other side of the nation in Seattle. It was that thing up there. I used to come to Tampa on business and put my head up, my headset will fall, and stare at the sky, just like, what is this sun? But now that I've been here, I'll tell you the thing I love about Tampa is that I hardly ever wear closed-toed shoes and socks, and never wear nylons. And I still live in them. It might be funny, but I never wear nylons. Like one time last year I did, and I'm like, look at me, I look ridiculous. So I love all things bright and sunny. It's
Right?
true.
I love it. Yeah, I've got a trip up to Michigan in a few weeks, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna need,
Ooh,
because it's
ooh,
already cold there. I'm like, oh my goodness, this is incredible.
yep,
Well, this has been so
yep.
rich. Thank you so much for accepting the invite to be on the podcast. I'm just honored to work with you in the future, and thank you for pouring out this wisdom. Before I let you leave, where's somewhere we can send people online to find out about you, find out about your books, all that kind of stuff. And we're going to get some copies of your books, and we're going to put them in the Facebook group and do some giveaways, just because you've done some great work that way. So
You're so awesome about that, and thank you for having me on your show. I've been excited. It was interesting, right? How we met at the Christian Chamber, and then a lot of time went by, and then here we are. So it's all for the good. Yeah, publishwithnow.com. So publishwithnow.com is our website. Really the best place that you can kind of see the books that we published, and you can reach out to our team. A good email for us is publish@now. scpress.com. But you can also, Google my name, Liza Marie Garcia, and you'll see some great stuff that God's been leading. And we enjoy what we do. So thank you for hosting me for sure.
Well, I love it. Well, thank you again for being on. And thank you to our listeners for being a part of the Speak with People podcast. Every single Wednesday, we air a brand new episode with just an incredible leader who is just excelling in their leadership and their communication and teaches us what they've learned from their failures and successes. Again, thank you for every single like, comment, and review. Really does mean the world when you go into Apple Podcast or Spotify and you leave a review of the podcast. Really does help the algorithm and the interwebs send our podcast to more and more people. Again, hopefully you've been challenged and encouraged to elevate the importance and practice of healthy communication in your life and leadership. My hope is that this podcast encourages you, challenges you, inspires you to speak with people, not at them. Thank you again, and we'll see you next week on the podcast.